Hi, Alan.
Okay, hi. So let's see. We start. It's 100A. Is that what it is?
Yes, 100. Yeah, perfect.
Okay, good. Let me get here now. I finished the paragraph. So I'm not going to be able to make it to Ernie's tomorrow because I have an appointment.
Oh,
Are you going to be able to go to the Minion tomorrow morning?
no, because I have to go to the desert in the morning. I won't be back till Thursday.
Oh, I see. Okay, yeah.
I'm sure he'll get a minion. I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, you got his message. I feel bad.
Yeah, I know, but I'm sure he'll get people.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Okay. Let me just get this here. I gotta learn that for a bit. Okay. Okay, so now, so the Gemara now to discuss the Rav Nachman and this matter that you'll see. Rav Shaliach b'dayonim. If they, let's say that the shliach made a mistake, like the judges, so it's first the Mekach Memker. So sales remains in force as long as the error is less than 6. Like we know, that we call shtus.
Right, a 6 is okay.
Right, up to a 6. If it's more, then it's a mekach toas. Rav Shua ben Omer Rav Nachman, Kalman, just like an agent who erred like a widow, the slightest error invalidates the sale. So that's the machlokus between Rav Nachman and Rav Shua ben Binsa, right? Rav Omer Rav Nachman Shaliach Kedayonim. He's like the judges. My Dayonim, who they don't do it for themselves. They do it for their. They don't do it for their own sake. They do it for someone else. So Avshliach Nami Lav Didio. They also he does it for somebody else. Because a widow does it for her own sake. So therefore, that's why if she errs, it's her own problem. She's done it for her sake. So Rav Shmuel ben Somer of Nachman, that an agent is like a widow. My Amana Yechida, just as a widow is an individual. Shliach Yochen. So too, the shliach is an individual. Lafuki bezin rabiminu, to exclude a bezin, which is a group of many people. So it makes a difference between a shliach and a bezdin. The shliach kamana. So the halacha is that if even a minimal error invalidates the sale. So Umayshna Mahadit, now it's the difference that we learned the Mishnah Omer L'Shlucha, say a trum, go and separate truma for his behalf, and he gives no instructions how much truma to take. So Torah Bedas Malabayis, the shliach should separate with the mindset of the homeowner, of the owner of the crop. If he doesn't know it, Torah Bebelis, he should divide what the Bebelis is. Echad b'chamishim, 1 in 50. Pichas asora, if he subtracted 10 parts for the immediate standard, Osef asor, or he added. In other words, he took off either instead of 150, he took off 1/40th or 1/60th. Trumasa truma. His actions are not invalidated, but the truma that's separated is according with the status of truma. Apparently, the actions of the agent are not nullified to a slight error. So we see that it's not like if a shliach does this, it's not like a widow who says it's a widow who says that it's not a mistake. Now, there's a shliach, it's fulfilled. He doesn't. It's not invalidated. So Hasan Kevadik in the Torah being raw. By truma, some people separate stingily. The Torah by enough, and some people separate generously. Excuse me 1 second. Somebody at the door? Did you get the door? Yeah, we had for Mincha, for this morning, we must have had at least 50 people for Hakafas here today. And the Mincha or more for both days. Crazy. Crazy. Yeah. People in the neighborhood just don't want to walk to shul. Yeah. So some people are stingy, some people are generous. The agent can say, I assumed you wanted this amount of truma, but here in the case of an agent who undercharged for property, it's a simple error. It is a simple error. He could say, the principal can say, you should have not erred. In other words, I told you to get a certain amount, you didn't get a certain amount. Where they did by truma, he can say, I assumed you were a generous person. And if a guy says, if an agent goes and takes and says that, if a balabas says take truma for, he didn't say how much, and the agent goes and he gives more than the guy had wanted to give, I mean, the shliach is not going to say because the agent could say, I thought you were generous, not stingy. He's not going to say, no, I am stingy. He's going to let it go, So, that more than the 6, the discrepancy of the 6 invalidates the sale. Or it says, doesn't he say, if the bezin makes a mistake, and we say it's invalidated, so what authority does the bezin have to do? So if orphans have come to divide their properties, the father, bezin they appoint a guardian for him, and they choose one. They choose a favorable proportion for each one of them. He deal when the orphans grow each over, they can protest the difference what the guardian made for them, the division they made for them, and then they can demand a revised distribution of the assets. So that is what Abnachman reported. Abnachman said, the orphans have to accept what the Bezdin said for them. It came out Koch Bezdin Yofa. What's the importance of the Bezdin? If they can change it, then what does the Bezdin accomplish? If you give the Bezdin the rights to do it, and then you can negate what they did, what they said after what they grew up, then what does the Bezdin authority have? So why does he rule against some Gamliel, whose ruling is based on this principle? So lo kasha hoda Torah refers to where the judges erred a 6 or more. In that case, of Nachman does not rule that we must uphold the authority of the court. Hod lota, but where the ruling that he does not allow the orphans to repeal the division effects of the court is where they appointed guardians. The guardians did not err. In that case, we hold that their decision is final. If the guardians did not err, what can the orphans protest? So baruchos, they concern the locations of it. In other words, if they, let's say the Bezdin determines, gives each of the orphans a piece of land, and then when they grow up and they found that it's not convenient for them, it's not when each one is not near each one's houses, so therefore they can change it. They have a right to change it, protest it. So the question is, if they agree for themselves, really, they don't have to. What do they have to need Bezdin for? In other words, if they Bezdin gives Ruvain a piece of property in location A and Shimon a property in location B, and then when they grow up, they see it's not convenient for them. I mean, if it's possible, they could do it on their own. I guess they can change without Bezdin. But I guess here they're fighting with each other, so they could go ahead, have a new ruling on it and negate what the Bezdin did when they were young. So Kisra Abdimi Omar, he said, "Ma'aseh, but not also Kedimei Chachamim." The court erred when selling the orphan's property, and Rebbe issued a verdict in accordance with the Chacham and voided the sale. Omer Lafanav, Prata Beno Shah Belazar Ben Prata Ben Oshal Prata Agvaro. The Prata, the son of Rabbi Lazar Ben Prata, and the grandson of Prata, the great one. It came Makoach Bezin Yof. If they could void what the Bezin said, what is the authority of the court worth? The Hechzer Abba Maisa, and therefore he reversed what he said, and he upheld the sale. In other words, they could not, even Baruchos, even if locations, they can't reverse it. They have to accept what the Bezin determined when they were young, Katanim. Rav Divi Masvahachi, Rav Safra Masvahachi. The one learned one way, one went the other way. Masa Bikesh there was incident with the court erred in the sixth by selling the orphan's property. Rabbi sought a verdict in accordance with the words of the Chachamim and void the sale, but he had not actually done so. So I'm going to find out Prata Benosha of Lazar and Prata Benosha Rabbi Prata. It became Makoach Bezin Yafa. What's the that? What is there? If he reversed it, then what is the Bezin's worth? Lo Asa Rabbi Es Amaisa. Upon hearing this, Rabbi changed his mind. He did not issue the verdict, voiding the court's sale. As it that Rabbi had one point that he voided the court sale, and only after he retracted it. Okay. So, lame of Hakabifiki. My summer Tom Edvar that if a judge erred about something that's explicitly in the Mishnah, he retracts the verdict of our Saveida Jose, even though it's against what the Mishnah says. Even if he has overlooked an explicit Mishnah, if he rules something, then we don't change it. More rejects it, but no. If he made a mistake, an explicit Mishnah, so we do agree. Even Rav Safra agrees that a judge who errs concerning the law that's explicitly in the Mishnah retracts the verdict. Thus, even Rav Safra would agree that the Rebbe could have reversed the verdict after it had been handed to Mar Sover. They interpret the incidents differently. So of how the incident occurred. So Amar Yosef, our masla, the zavna, achrav ayasmi. If a widow sells her late husband's estate, achrius ayasmi. The guarantee falls upon the orphan. Umidi zavna, and if the court sells the estate, achrius ayasmi. The guarantee falls on the orphans. Either way, the katana, the biosomim guarantee it. For example, if a widow sells her husband's estate in order to get mazonos or the ksuba, and then someone comes later and proves that property belonged to them, they take it back. So the yisomim have to, even though it's a property that's not guaranteed, so still the Yisroim have to guarantee it, and so does the Bezin. The Bezin, if they sell something and it's not a guaranteed property, and they finds out later that somebody took it away, the orphans have to guarantee it. So the more it says Pshita, it says Almana lo tzrichale. It's unnecessary for him to mention Amona. He would not have stated that part of the ruling, but he kissed her bedin. The only reason he said this is because let him know that the Bezdin, if they do something, they are responsible for it. So he turned on the Bezdin, Kizov my boy dinner. If one who buys property for the court, he buys with understanding that the word went out for the public. Since the sale was publicized, yet no one stepped forward to claim the land. The purchaser feels secure that the property is unencumbered, and he buys it without a guarantee. Kamash Malon, they informed us that the sale is deemed guaranteed, and it is the orphans who must honor the guarantee. Because otherwise, why would a guy buy property that's up for sale if he doesn't do checking to find out that it's encumbered or that it's somebody else, if it wasn't stolen or whatever it is, somebody has to lien on it.
Other loans, yeah.
Yeah. So Pshir Gamliel Omer, that the sale stands even when the discrepancy is a 6 or more. For indeed,
Oh,
we're to evaluate what is the authority worth? What is my bezin yofa? What's the purpose? Even if the bezin makes a mistake. So this is what the Mishnah said. The more says ad kama, how much error does the court make that it remains valid? Or put it
up to 50%. Wow. Up to 50%.
Yeah.
Wow.
Something. Yeah. Right. So Tanam Ahochi Amar Rabban Shiva B'Gamliel Bezdin Shemachu Shava Masai B'Mada. If he sold some property worth $200 for $100, or Shava Mada Masai, or vice versa, property worth 100 for 200, Michron Kayam. The sale stands, and that's based upon the ruling. Is what if we don't recognize it, then what's the strength of Bezdin? So another case happens. If the court sells something without prior announcement, regarded as if they had erred about the law in the Mishnah and they retract their sale. So, more questions here. The more questions his answer. Nasu. So nasu. The court is merely regarded as if it erred about law. Explicit in the Mishnah, they have undoubtedly erred about such a law. And we learn the Mishnah, the procedure of appraisal, the sale of property belonging to the orphan requires the sale to be advertised for 30 days. Mishum Hegdish Shishim, and for a Hegdish, if the Hegdish wants to sell their property or sell something, they have to advertise it for 60 days. They announce it both for morning.
I never knew that. I never knew that they advertised the sale.
Yeah, but now you see that somebody gives something to Hegdish, they have a right to sell it to raise the funds. And the reason is, what happens if they sell a cow with a mum in it? So for Hegdish, it can't do anything, right? It's not good. So they have to sell it. First of all, to take off the kedusha for the cow, and then they take that money and they'll buy something that's useful for Hegdish. Then that cow normally, that thing or what talton, whatever it is, if a guy donates a car to Hegdish, what are they going to do with it? They have to get the value out of it.
For the money.
And so they have to, and they have to give. There's all different things about it. They have to call it out, because they give a chance for people to raise the price. The reason they do it so they can get the best price. If they come to an auction without having to call everything out, then the guy will come in and they make a low bid, and nobody shows up. It happens sometimes. You ever been to an auction? And when you ever gone to an auction before?
Yeah, I have.
So sometimes you go because you think you can steal something.
You think in the last second some guy outbids you because you're crazy.
Right, it's great, but there's a certain amount of fun in it too.
It is.
That you could get a great deal on the thing. So that's why it's important that if the guy who's selling it, if the business sells it, they have to let people know that there's going to be an auction. I get things in the email all the time that there's auctions. They have live auctions, and they have also written. You send in your bid on the thing.
Live auctions are much better.
Yeah, live auction. Yeah. In my business, it used to be you would buy from government auction for things that were not claimed at the port.
Oh.
The government take a hold of it, and they would every quarterly they would have auctions. People come and bid on stuff, and because what's the government going to do with this stuff?
Oh yeah, so you pick up a mitzvah?
Sometimes I get a mitzvah. Yeah, and and so it's fun to go there sometimes. But there's certain guys that they know they go to all the auctions. They're shrewd, and many times they make deals with other guys. They know the other guys can bid against them. It's not legal, but they do it anyhow.
Yeah.
You have certain sign languages to go. Like, don't bid on it. I'll get this one. You get the next.
Then you get the next one. Yeah.
Okay. So Imahi Havamina Hanamili Shaliach. I might said this ruling was only stated only when the shliach can sell the orphan's property. Al the bezdin kamashlan that regard the court has erred about that, but where the court's selling the orphan's property, no announcement is required. I would think that you don't sell it if the court is selling Kamash they also have to make a hachraza, announcement ahead of time. Property was sold to the praiser of judges who undervalued or overvalued by a six. So Michrad Batal, their sale is void. This is a Mishnah. Hashav Veshava, and this implies that if the price obtained by the court equals the property that they had evaluated, Michrad Kayim, their sale is Kayim, my love to Lo Echron. Now, is it not so? The Mishnah refers to where they did not announce their sale, yet the Mishnah implies that the sale is valid if the correct price was charged. Thus, the Mishnah contradicts the Mavor's ruling that if a court sale was not first announced. And here he says here that the reason that they try to get the most is because by announcing it, more people will come.
Yeah.
And that, so that's it. So nobody Chruza. Mishnah refers to where they did announce the pending sale. Thus, the court sale is invalid unless they erred by a six. Is valid unless they erred by a six. Since the latter part of the Mishnah did announce a ratio but the low achrosa. So since the latter part says it's talking about where they did announce, so the first part of the Mishnah must be that they did not announce it. The 20 say for if the court made a letter of inspection, announcement through which the public becomes aware of the sale and comes to inspect the property, even if they sold property worth the money for 200, their sale stands. So that must be referring to where there was no announcement. The more concedes, but defense Baber, Ella, the Olam, but the law. It was not announced, Lokasha, Kan Vidvorm Shabach Rizalem, things that which you announce in advance of the sale, Kan Vidvorm Shein Mach Rizal, which we don't. There's certain things you announce and certain things you don't. And these are the things which you know. Hey, they don't announce it. Avodim, Avataltalim, Ashtoros. These are the things you don't announce ahead of time what you're going to sell. And then more else, I will tell you why each one of these you don't sell. Because the reason, avodim, what's the reason you don't announce the slaves? Because Shema Yishmu Yechud, maybe the slave will hear that he's going to be sold, and he doesn't want to go to another person, so they'll run away. So Metalta the stores, and what is the reason the movables don't say not announced? Shema Yugunvu, maybe they'll be when they're on display, somebody's going to come and swipe them. So Iboilahu, Kan B'Shosh Mach reason, Amira says when they announce the sales, Kan B'Shosh Mach reason, the first part of Arisha refers to when they not announce. Daminadoi for Nador, the Karga, the Bazola, the Kavura. Why do they? Because they I guess we sell without having to hachraza because for payments for head tax and payments for support for burial expenses, they sell property without prior announcement. In these three cases, we pay the expenses immediately because there's no time for public announcement and bidding. The head tax is demanded by the ruler who would be revoked if you're non-payment. In this case of support, the wife and daughters require provisions immediately, and the deceased must be buried quickly so as not to disgrace him by allowing. And so therefore they don't announce it because, if obviously in countries a person dies, the government comes after right away for the taxes. So they want to avoid doing that. So they don't call out, they think and maybe get away without having to pay all that, taking the tax and inheritance tax. And besides they have to raise money, for the Shomi, they bury him right away so they won't delay the Miyabusha for the base.
Right.
So they assumed the students of the base of Edris, because the courts and I were expert in appraisal of property, did not require public auction to ascertain the true value. They knew ahead of time what it was. Just like our properties, the government knows how much our property is worth by the tax and restructure. We get a bill ahead of time, yeah. Maybe maybe the only time you get away with it is if you do some building inside where they don't see it. But they
right, without a permit.
Yeah, without a permit.
Yeah.
But they manage to come around all the time and check and see if there's
Yeah, they snoop around. They do. They snoop around.
Yeah, and neighbors tell them also.
When they see like a dumpster in front of the house,
right,
that's a bad sign. Yeah.
Yeah, right, yeah. Amar Yosef Bar Manunia, the Mishule Mined Rab Nochan explained to me that Mishum de Korlu B'nei Achli Dichse the Nazra, because the people themselves they devour announced properties. That's interesting because he said here to be called a nichse agraza. In other words, people that go around and buy stuff that's off for auction is not necessarily make the person good, because he's called those who devour announced properties. It says, the people who consider it shameful to buy court auction property, for it was known that the property was being sold only to raise cash for people who were pressed for money, such as orphans or others, debtors who were unable to pay obligations. Buying the property in these circumstances was viewed as exploiting the unfortunate who were forced to sell the property cheaply by the court, and the buyers would be called disparagingly the devourers of announced properties. And announcing the sales advance would discourage rather than encourage potential buyers. And therefore, they abolished the custom of calling out. So, in other words, it said that these people people don't want to deal with these people for shidduchim, for example.
Of course.
If I'm a devourer of property, I knew I buy because of people take advantage of people that need the money. So I'm called a disparaging, a devourer for announced properties, and that's not good for shidduchim. Oh, it's interesting. Yeah. I'm Rabbi Yehuda Shmuel. We praise and sell immediately. They sell at the marketplace, because at the marketplace you get a better price, and of course the whole purpose of selling it is to sell it for behalf of the Yisomim. So we wait till the marketplace, because I guess you have more people there, and that's people come to buy. Below pigi and are not in fact they don't argue. Adi Makor Shuka, ruling the Chizda refers to where the market is near, and therefore we delay selling the movables until that time. Or the market Shuka, where the market is far away, we don't delay the sale until the market, unless the movable is depreciated in the interim. Because it's like produce. Yeah, if the market is far away, by the time you get there, the produce will be worth less. It'll start to deteriorate. Bahava Bide Shikra Sharsha Bachilka. Kada says, and his flesh and beer, and Adrigil, he delayed selling until the Chagim. And he says, even though the spoilage is set in, they bring quick cash at the time of the festival. But people want to buy Yontif, they want to buy, they buy everything, and they'll buy even beer that's not as good as it, not as fresh.
Right.
He had wine belonging to Zuta, the orphan. He was a nephew. He was his nephew, the son of his sister. The D Namachamahavios and wine of his own. He'd bring it to a place to sell there. Also, he came there and he said, but what's the law? Whether he may bring the orphan's wine with us, may we take along to sell with our wine, or must we be concerned that the ship might sink and the orphan will lose his wine? Can he take a chance and sell the orphan's wine in case the ship might sink? He said to him, go and bring it with you. It's better that it is not better than your own wine. That is, you are not obligated to treat his wine differently than you are for treating your own wine. Okay, so we'll learn the Mishnah again. We'll learn the Mishnah again till the bottom. I asked my son-in-law, Shaila, about, this week was get out from the Shemitah, right? You're not allowed to have anything. So I asked him, are you allowed to buy from a Goyish sharecropper? Let's say a Jewish person has land, right?
Yeah.
And he gives it to an Arab sharecropper.
Okay.
He works the land, and he takes he can take he
A
takes his.
percentage.
So are you allowed to do that? And then are you allowed to buy from the sharecropper his chelek?
But isn't that what they're doing this year? What they did?
I think that he said they did that. I think they do that. So in other words, the land is not fallow. The sharecropper, if he works itself at it, if the sharecropper hires other people to do it, then it's not. I don't think he can't do it. But if the sharecropper, you have land in Israel, and then instead of leaving fallow, you give it over to the sharecropper,
To an Arab,
he works the land, and then you buy the produce from him. So he works. So you can do that, but your own stuff you can't. But if it's here, if you give it to him to do it, then you can buy.
Right. I think that's what they had notifications of what you were buying if that was the case, because some people didn't think that was so kosher. But
right, that's why I think they. I'm not sure. He says some of the Haredi don't do that because
right.
But I think he'd be permitted to do that. He's from Eretz Yisrael, my grandson.
Right.
That's what he said. Yeah. So interesting. Yeah. So now the teachers talk about certain women don't get ksuba from their husbands. Hamamanis, Ashniya, Vayoyoros, three girls that don't get one who Mamanis, the first girl who refuses her husband, which means she was married off by her mother or her brothers, right? So not her father, her brother. So when she becomes of age, before she becomes, and she refuses her husband, so she doesn't get a ksuba. Ein lohem ksuba, and not entitled to ksuba, v'lo peiros, nor the benefit granted a wife in exchange for her work. V'lo mazonos, and not support. V'lo belois, and not worn out clothing. Well, these are the three women. A mamanis, the person refuses. A secondary aruva, and ayalonos. So we know what ayalonos is. It's a don't know if it's a man or woman, but a secondary shliya is a woman who he's not supposed to marry. He's like he's let's say a grandmother or a granddaughter. That's so they're not supposed to marry. So if the Gemara goes on to explain that reason that she doesn't get it is because she's also penalized because she convinced him to marry her, though she's at fault also. Both of them are at fault, but not only him, but her also. So that's why it's like a knas for both. That's what the worn out clothing. For example, when she comes into a marriage, I thought it was her clothing, but she brought in clothing as a from her father, let's say, as a matana or thing, and she gives her husband that clothing to wear, a jacket or a hat. So, and if it gets worn out, then so she doesn't get it back. She doesn't get it back. Where normally she would. Yes. Second half. Interesting. My grandfather came over in Seattle in 1906, around that time, and he used to buy used suits. That's how he started his. He would go from door to door, and he would buy suits from people. Who suits because people couldn't afford a new suit.
It's pretty expensive,
But who would have a suit would be CEOs of companies or the bankers or things like that. Right. So after davening in the morning, he would go and knock on doors, and he would ask them, in fast areas, he'd walk in. You have that's how he got started. So he would take that suit. My grandfather had a long beard, and the hat never took it off, and he kept his long beard. And he used to go to fancy places like Beverly Hills or Hancock Park, things like that. So he once went to he walked about 6 miles to go to this area, and he bought the woman says, I have my husband's suit. He brought the suit home, and he fixed it up, and he used to go fix up the suits and sell them to a secondhand store downtown Seattle. And anybody who needed a suit would go to these type of stores and buy. He couldn't buy a new suit. nobody could afford a new suit. So he was going through the pockets to clean out, so if there was a hole in it, and check it, and he found a diamond brooch in it. So he walked back the next day to the same house, and he knocked on the door, and she says, "I told you my husband's suit yesterday. I don't have any more suits. I don't for him." So she said, so he said, "I bought the suit, and I paid for the suit, but I didn't pay for this diamond brooch."
Wow.
And that's my husband's favorite piece of jewelry. Wait here till he comes home. And he waited till he came home, and he came home, and he was so thankful to my grandfather. And he was the vice president of the National Bank of Commerce, which is today, they sold out to Bank America. This was
Oh my gosh.
the National Bank of Commerce was a business in the early 1900s before Bank America even existed. And my grandfather, he says, I'm vice president of the bank. And we asked him what he does. He told me he goes door to door, buys peddle. He's a peddler. He goes down. He says, do you need a loan? So my grandfather says, a loan? I just have a shirt on my back. I don't have any collateral. He said, no, you don't need collateral. All you're going to tell me is that you're going to pay us back. He says, of course. So he lent him the money without any kind of collateral.
Amazing.
And he gave it, and then my grandfather went out and bought a horse and buggy with that, and that's how he started his business. And he had never met a Jewish man before. And here my grandfather had a long beard, and he kept his hat on. And that's a famous story they talk about it in all the books.
But what language did your father speak? He was able to speak some English? He was able to speak some English?
So, he came over when he was about 20. So he learned English, broken English.
Oh, okay.
He was able to communicate, And
he beautiful story.
Through his whole life, he did so many interesting things that he made Kiddush Hashem, and not
that's
only
a great
that,
lesson. It's a great lesson for the family.
He established a relationship with the bank, and he brought other people in. Of his colleagues got into the bank to loan them money, and he collateralized everybody. He signed on it, and this man, as long as he was there, they gave my grandfather. He never met a man like that. But who would give a man credit for has nothing and give him credit those days? But
an honest man, honest man.
Honest man. So so many stories, but we can't find today like that.
I love it.
Yeah, it's
once in a great while you find some.
Yeah,
my son was on vacation in Hawaii with his wife, and he was in a movie theater, and when they left, he didn't realize he lost his wallet. And I think the next day, a guy who found the wallet, he did the research and found that where my son was staying in Hawaii. It was shocking. Yeah.
Is that something?
My son couldn't believe it. Somebody went through all the effort just to track him down.
Wow.
You hear these beautiful stories.
Is that something? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
So we finished the mission then. If from the outset the husband married her on the understanding that she is an alonus, so she does get a kasuba, she's entitled to a kasuba. So now the Morris can list the Mishnah of marriages forbidden, but who receive kasuba because nonetheless, a Kohen Gadol, a widow married a Kohen Gadol, or a Kohen Hedjot, divorced a Chalutza Kohen Hedjot, Mamzeres Nesil Israel, all these things married to Jew, Bas Yisrael, the Nosan of Mamzer, a Jewess married a Nosan or Mam. A Nosan is a illicit relationship from a Kohen into it's an Yeshlem Ksuba. They are entitled to Ksuba's payment. And
I wouldn't have thought.
Yeah.
All right, that's good. So, I won't be able to learn tomorrow. I'm going to the desert.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to be driving about that time at night. So
okay. So whenever it's good for you,
night.
let me know. I learned the next stuff. I prepared, but whenever you want, we can. Whatever you want, we could.
Okay.
Yeah. So whatever you want, we can continue on. So you let me know. I guess Ernie, Ernie give the daf during the shiva.
I don't know. It's a good question. We'll find out tomorrow, I suppose. What it'll say.
Okay, maybe. Yeah.
But have a good night. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah. Enjoy you. We got all
week. Zimmer. I get in Zimmer.
Get the winter.
I'll get in winter, right? Yeah. I thought I was in Australia.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I get in winter. Yeah.
Take care. Bye-bye.